Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana
So reading 3rd Canto Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, text 40. Aho, Pritati, Viryate, Rupiharkate, Vajarashi, Varyena, Vinapi, Tena, Yas, Suv, Eka, Viro, Virato, Vidyate, Danur, Devidya, Kakubas, Satyashva, Aho Pritapi Jarite Vidyartike, Rajarshi Varena Vinapitena, Yastuvika Virodarata Vidyate, Danur Devidya Kakubas Satyashva, Aho Pratapi Jarate Rupakarte, Raja Shivarena Vinapitena, Yastuvika Virodano Vidyate,
Pratapi Yate Pakati
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakati
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Aste Kavira Dirato Vijay
Yastu Vikaviro Darato Vijay
Anurvitiya Kapavashtasra
Nanurviya Kavashtastra
Aho Pitapi Yate Bhagarte
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakati
Raja Shivarena Vinapitena
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Yasme Kaviro Dirato Vijigye
Yastu Vikaviro Darato Vijay
Namo Nitiya Kapu Ashtatasya
Nanurviya Kavashtastra
Aho Pratapi Yate Vikarte
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakati
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Yaste Kaviro Dirato Vijay
Yastu Vikaviro Darato Vijay
Danordvitiya Kakuvashtatasra
Janurviya Kavashtastra
Ato Pratapi Driyate Vakarte
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakati
Raja Shivaryena Vinapitena
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Yaste Kaviro Driyato Vijike
Yastu Vikaviro Darato Vijay
Danor Driha Kakubhashchatasya
Janurviya Kavashtastra
Pratapi Driyate Vikarte
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakati
Raja Shivarena Vinapitena
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Yastralekaviro Dirato Vijay
Yastu Vikaviro Darato Vijay
Dano Dhita Akupashtatasha
Janurviya Kavashtastra
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakarte
Aho Pratapi Yate Pakati
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Raja Shivarina Vinapitena
Yaste Kaviro Dirato Vijigye
Yastu Vikaviro Darato Vijay
Danordvitiya Kakuvashtatasra
Janurviya Kavashtastra. I guess everyone chanted. We'll chant the word by word synonyms. Aho,
Aho,
O my Lord,
O my Lord,
Krishna Kunti,
Kunti
Api,
Api
also,
also
Dhirate
Driyate
bears her life.
bears her life.
Arabaka Arte,
Arvaka Arte
for the sake of fatherless children.
for the sake of fatherless children.
Rajarshi,
Rajashi
King Pandu,
King Pandu
Varena,
Oriena
the best.
the best.
Vina,
Vina
Api,
Api
without him.
without him.
Tena,
Tena
him.
him.
Ya,
Ya
one who.
one who.
Two, but.
But
Eka,
Eka
alone.
alone.
Vira,
Vira
the warrior.
the warrior.
Adiratha,
Adhirata
commander.
commander.
Vidyage,
Vijigye
could conquer.
Good
Danu,
Tanu
the bow.
the bow.
Vividya,
Dvitiya,
the second.
the second.
Akuva, directions.
Directions.
Chatasha,
Chatasra,
4.
4.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord, is Prita still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander and who alone conquered the 4 directions simply with the help of a second bow. A faithful wife cannot live without her lord, the husband, and therefore all widows used to voluntarily embrace the burning fire which consumed the dead husband. This system was very common in India because all the wives were chaste and faithful to their husbands. Later on, with the event of the age of Kali, the wives gradually began to be less adherent to their husbands, and the voluntary embrace of the fire by the widows became a thing of the past. Very recently, the system was abolished, since the voluntary system had become a forcible social custom. When Maharaj Pandu died, both his wives, namely Kunti and Madhuri, were prepared to embrace the fire. But Madhuri requested Kunti to live for the sake of the younger children, the 5 Pandavas. This was agreed upon by Kunti at the added request of Vyasadeva. In spite of her great bereavement, Kunti decided to live, not to enjoy life in the absence of her husband, but only to give protection to the children. This incident is referred to here by Vajra because he knew all the facts about his sister-in-law, Kunti Devi. It is understood that Maharaj Pandu was a great warrior and that he alone, with the help of a bow and arrow, could conquer the world's 4 directions. In the absence of such a husband, it was almost impossible for Kunti to live on, even as a widow, but she had to do it for the sake of the 5 children. So yeah, I was listening to a couple of lectures on this and I kind of did a little research. So in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna addresses Arjuna, O son of Pritha, so that's who he's speaking to about the Pandava's mother, Pritha, or Queen Kunti. So now how Pritha was Queen Kunti's birth name, and she was born of Surasena, King Surasena, and King Surasena had 15 children, and Vasudeva is one of her brothers, who's the father of Lord Krishna. So this is how Queen Kunti Devi becomes the aunt of Lord Krishna, and the 5 Pandava brothers are Krishna's cousins. And so now how she gets the name Kunti is that Pritha was given for adoption to a king who was a friend of King Surasena, who was childless, and his name was Kunti Bhoja. So hence Pritha is also Queen Kunti, like that. So if Maharaj wants to discuss a little bit more on that, he had a lot of details within the last few days from Mahabharata regarding his personalities and pastimes.
Madhuri felt that Kunti, she considered Kunti very advanced devotee, and she would be able to take care of all the children as if they were her own. She wouldn't show any discrimination, whereas she felt that she would not be able to do that. And that was one thing. And the other thing was that she felt that she should be allowed to, Marjorie felt that she should be allowed to follow her husband because he was attracted to her. And that was his last desire, in a sense. So, because that desire could not be fulfilled, then she would go with him. The idea of this sounds abominable, of a wife, but it was voluntary. system is only voluntarily to be used, not forcibly if the wife does not want to do that. The other thing is that in the Vedic culture, they understand that life is not just one life. It's not that you live one life and then that's it. There's nothing more. It's over. They know that life is eternal and the living entity goes on. So, if the living entity doesn't live in one place, it doesn't mean the living entity is not living somewhere else. They're eternally living. With that in mind, things like this take a different view. Now, of course, if someone doesn't believe it, and doesn't believe that there is such a thing as life after death, then he'll always have a difficult time with many of the principles of the Vedas, for example, that the institution of capital punishment is established in the Vedic culture for those who are murderers. But nowadays, where people don't have much faith in the idea of living on after this life, they think it's cruel, even though the person's a murderer, they think it's cruel to take away his life, because he'll never get to exist again. And that's, of course, incorrect. So then it makes sense that the person who has performed misdeeds, such serious misdeeds, his life should be punished, so that his next life will be better and have the opportunity to have become free from that offense, and you won't have to suffer in the future more. So actually what appears to be violence is actually non-violence, but it's actually a benefit to give benediction to those who have committed sinful activities so that they can be purified and improve themselves in the future.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, the sati right has been abolished with the Vedic culture. This was a practice. So we read about in first canto how when Duryodhana and what is his wife's name? When they were Gandhari, that's right. Yeah. When Duryodhana and Gandhari, they retired to the forest. When Duryodhana, he left his body and consumed a fire. So she also voluntarily entered the fire. And Prabhupada was mentioning that report too, that the sati right has since been abolished, becoming a criminal affair. That those women who don't desire to enter into the fire, they shouldn't be forced to, where it becomes a forceful custom. So, in India has lost a lot of its Vedic culture, but due to the age of Kali Yuga, but Prabhupada was staying here in the purport that women are not as devoted to their husbands as they used to in Vedic times. So, let's see, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, so the Madri, her Nakula and Sadev were born from Madri. So they're twins. Their fathers were the two Aswini Kumaras. And so I believe we were discussing that. So they're actually Arjun, Bhima, and Unister's half-brothers, in a sense. So the father, their adopted father is still Pandu, even though each one of them was born from a different demigod. And then in the lectures I was listening to, is that Queen Kunti, she had to continue to bear this secret, that her first son was Karna. And he was the only Bowman equal in Arjun. Maharaj was discussing this, we had discussed this before. Draupadi knew this, that the only other person who could pierce the eye of the fish to the wheel with a bow, was the bow of Shiva, and looking down into a pot of water, right? Only do this. So Karna was considered to be a Sudra because he was raised by someone who was a Sudra. So he was known, but he had Kshatriya qualities, and actually already inherent within him. So he was accepted by Duryodhana and his party as Kshatriya. And at one particular point during the war of Kurukshetra and the Mahabharata, the negotiations, Kunti had revealed to Karna that he was actually her firstborn son. But and she was asking him to join the party of the Pandavas. But he was already devoted to Duryodhana. Yeah, I had heard this in Mahabharata. So he was already devoted to Duryodhana and his party, and is already, fighting and believed in his cause, in Duryodhana's cause. So, he wasn't inclined to join the Pandavas like that. So, but that's what they were discussing. Oh yeah, and another point, Bhakti Vilas Swami said in the lecture, he was saying, yeah, we should call this class to be brahmacharis, think of women. So he said, if you think of these women, you'll become liberated. Think about these women in the proper way. I remember we were reading a verse about Mother Yasoda. Mother Yasoda's working hard. She's churning the milk, right? And the question was, well, what is this whole verse about? What are we talking about? Are we thinking about women here? But it's like, yeah, to keep the purified conception of the woman. You wouldn't be attracted to the Lord's mother. Being a pure devotee, you want to keep that in the proper perspective. But her devotional activities, that she's working hard. And there's a description given there is that her clothing loosens and her garments start to come off, and her hairpins and things start, come out and loosen, right? She's working hard, kind of working up a sweat, so to speak, right? So here we're talking about women like Madri and Queen Kunti. But there was another thing that they were mentioning too. There's also the description when Krishna was entering Mathura, all the women in the city, they were embracing Krishna within their hearts, and tears came to their eyes, and like that. He was mentioning how Queen Kunti, she was praying for, she was thinking about all the times that they were in exile, and all the times that, Krishna had saved them again and again and again. So many different attempts were made on their lives, and they had narrowly escaped them all. And there was a poisoned cake, and the house was set on fire, and they were cheated at gambling matches, and they tried to disrobe Draupadi. So, I was just listening to this on a Prabhupada lecture just the other day. Draupadi was resisting, and finally she just put up her arms and showed to Krishna and said, "Oh, my Lord, Krishna, please save me." And that's when she got the unlimited cloth, the unlimited sarya cloth. There was a movie on that, I think it was Mahabharata, and it shows her she's spinning, and there's just more and more cloth, and they're just looking at each other like, in like total amazement, like what's going on, until they just gave up, and then it showed there's like a whole big pot of cloth there, and Draupadi, she was saved. They're going, this is ridiculous. We can't harm the Pandavas like this. They're protected by the Lord. They're protected. So and Prabhupada also mentioned this and I mentioned this before, where Prabhupada said life is not a sport, it's a continuation. So that we understand in the Vedic culture the eternality of the soul is that we're not the material body, but we're a spiritual soul. Radhanath Swami, he was given an example like this. He said, we don't remember about something, or we don't take too much significance to something that happened about 20 years ago. And in about another 20 years, we won't be thinking that so much is is so much significant now. We'll just kind of like, brush it off, well, we got through it like we got through everything else before, right? And then in the next life, we're not even going to remember this life. We don't even remember our past life. So it's like, it's really pretty significant, insignificant. And there's a reason for that, is through, in bodily identification, we don't remember, or our past lives, we don't have any knowledge of future life. But we can take into consideration how a person's acting, right? A person's, Prabhupada said this nudie movement, nudists, the people that want to go naked. So they can be placed in the bodies of trees and plants and bushes, right? And they can stand naked for long periods of time. Some of these trees stand for thousands of years. And so if one's acting like a pig and a hog, what is it? Incest, having sex with his mother and his children, right? Just eating anything, all abominable things. And one can take birth as a hog. Or if one commits sinful activities in the holy dhamma, one can take birth as a hog, a dog, a monkey, like that, an ass. Prabhupada was stating that too. So, there's also saying, we're in the verses about Maharaj Krishna being cursed by a Brahmana boy to be bitten by the snake bird. He's saying that we are all on the threshold of death. Who can say that you're not on the threshold of death? Anything can happen at any moment. Although Maharaj Krishna, he was condemned to die by the snake bird, but he was given 7 days to live. And then he would be bitten by the snake bird and die. So Bhakti Vilaswami was discussing certain things about politics. He was stating like in some of the communist countries, a person they're just taken away if they're in prison, then they're just taken away. They don't know where they are. He said there was a couple of devotees, they didn't know where these men were, they're just gone. So, that's what was going on in the communist countries. And he was saying that Stalin's policy was to treat everyone equally, but Stalin treated everyone like lower than dirt, like that. So that's the way he treated everyone equally. He treated everyone like dirt, And so he was discussing these specific politics, what is that? Some of the other things. The decisions. He said we don't even know who the decision makers are. He was saying at least in these days, they knew that Duryodhana, he was kind of demoniac, but he was inclined towards devotional service. Was inclined, but he was, but not to too much of a degree, where he was really pretty much bent on getting the kingdom, and not that he was specifically against Krishna, but they were evil-minded. They wanted to defeat Krishna, and specifically the Pandavas. So they knew that the Pandavas were protected by Krishna. So they tried to capture Krishna, and Krishna showed them his universal form. So they knew that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they weren't taking it to be very seriously like that. So that was their position. But when the leaders who are making these decisions, what is it? Now the water's being treated with arsenic. And I looked that up to see exactly what states and counties and, the water control are using arsenic to treat their water. They're using some chemicals, some sort of chlorides and fluorides and stuff too. But, who's ever making decisions, he talks about how they put the small independent farmer in disadvantaged, right? And they're pushing the big giant insecticides and fertilizers and or that GMOs, genetically modified organisms. Their seeds, they make their own seeds. They're the little small little fructified plant, and they're glued together in a couple of sunflower seed shells. So these are their synthetic seeds that they're selling. Big bags of it. They're selling to the farmers. It's genetically modified, to resist insects, produce its own insecticides, things like that, harmful chemicals that they're using. So it says we don't even really know who the people are who are actually behind this whole thing or making these decisions even. Just that, it's being done. And so that's the political aspect. They treat people equally, treat them like they're, just go ahead with your own plans. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. They don't even know who you are. So that's today's situation on that. But Queen Kunti, she was praying to be put into more distress because she was thinking about how Krishna was helping them, saving them. That was actually the best time of their lives, best time of her life. Queen Kunti, she knew that the sons of Pandavas were in great danger, and that, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra and the crew, what the crews were up to, and what their goals were, is actually to, eliminate the 5 Pandava brothers. So she tried to protect them as much as possible. And Krishna was actually their protector. Draupadi had a pot that she can cook and prepare as much prasadam for everyone as everyone needs to be completely sumptuously satisfied until she takes prasad herself. And then the pot's over for that meal. Right? So, Durvasa Muni and all of his thousands of followers were coming, and they were going to want to have prasad. And Draupadi's going that, I've already taken my meal. And Krishna says, oh, well, let me see. And there's still a little morsel of a grain or something. And Krishna took it and ate it and was very satisfied. And so then, because Krishna is the root of all existence, when Krishna becomes satisfied, so then all the jivas, living entities, and all of the universe, they become satisfied. So Durvasa Muni and all of the followers, they were satisfied already. They weren't hungry anymore. They were full, so they all started going the other direction. started going away. So Krishna saved them in so many different ways, and Queen Kunti, she was reminiscing about all the dangers and all the times and ways that Krishna had saved her and her sons, the 5 Pandava brothers. So they're saying, generally nobody prays, oh my Lord, please put me in trouble and distress, right? Generally it's usually the opposite, oh my Lord, please keep me healthy and wealthy, and wise. We go to the Lord, God is like our order supplier, or we're doing some business or something, please give me this, please give me that. But the devotional service in the bhaktis, we're praying, oh Lord, what can I do for you? Right? What type of service can I perform? What can I do for you rather than, oh please give me this or that, like it's some business like that. So, is there any points of questions or comments or points of discussion? Or do you have a question?
When you were talking about Draupadi, I was thinking the question arises about Lord Krishna not being partial to his devotees. And I was wondering if Draupadi wasn't such an exalted devotee, and she actually purely called out for Krishna's help in the time of need. Was it only due to her being an exalted devotee that he supplied her with unlimited sorrow and help throughout the need?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the explanation on that is, but anyone that calls out helplessly for the Lord hears them and saves them, like in the case of Jamno. Jamno was calling for his son named Narayan. And Narayan, he typically pure devotional service, he heard it, right? And sent his Vishnu Dutas. But the Yamadutas were coming and taking Jamno away to the hellish planets. At Jamno, he had, the history of Jamno is that he had taken into his service the prostitute that he saw. And so then he fell down with her and gave up his chaste Brahmana wife to associate intimately with this lower class Sudra prostitute woman and perform so many horrible, sinful activities to maintain her. And then at the time of death, the Yamajutas, in fact, they're saying no one more sinful than Jamno. Jamno is this most sinful person ever. Right? So, no one's more sinful. I always thought it was like a general statement. Oh, he was the most sinful person. Like a most the sinful person, like out of many most sinful persons, right? But it's like, no, what they're saying is literal. He was the most sinful person ever. Oh, you have a question coming?
Maharaj wanted to share from his office that there was a little background for that Leela with Draupadi getting the cloth. That one time Krishna was cooking in their presence, in Draupadi's presence, and he cut his finger and a little blood came out. And she immediately ripped her sari and wrapped it up. He said, I'll pay you back for that.
Oh, okay, that's really nice. That's a nice little, yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. That's like when the barter woman, she saw Krishna coming out with some grains, because they bartered some grains for fruit, and Krishna's tiny little hands and his awkward steps, and the grains were falling out of his hands and between his fingers. So the woman, she filled Krishna's hands and arms with fruits, and when she turned around, she saw her cart was filled with jewels. So yeah, Krishna takes 10 steps towards Bhakta every time his Bhakta takes one step towards Krishna. Like that. Yeah, so that's really nice. That's a nice way. So yeah, does that answer your question too? But yeah, anyone who calls up for the name of the Lord in complete helplessness, and the Lord hears it, he saves them. It's like that. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam.